I'm glad to see you again in our e-learning class of syntax. In our previous lecture, we discussed that the areas of analysis of syntax are phrases, clauses, and sentences. And so far we have discussed the constructions of phrases, and now let us concentrate on clauses and sentences. What are clause and sentence? Examine the sentence "I went to university after I ate lunch." This is a sentence that is composed of two clauses. Independent clause, I went to university, and dependent clause, after I ate lunch. Why I went to university is called independent clause because it is complete in itself. And why after I ate lunch is called dependent clause because it is not complete in itself and it has to be connected to independent clause I went to university. How do you know this? If I say I went to university, it is complete in itself. The listener will not ask you question because they understand this already. But when you say after I ate lunch, it's not complete by itself. Why? Because the meaning or the listener, yes, will have incomplete information after I ate lunch. There should be preceding information that is missing. That is why it has to be connected to I went to university. So in this case, you can say that independent clause is a sentence, but dependent clause is not. All right? Now another difference between independent clause and dependent clause is independent clause consists of subject and verb or SV, and dependent clause consists of subject and V also, but it is preceded by subordinating conjunctions like after, before, although, because. I want to give you more examples. I work hard because I want to be successful in my future. He keeps on working hard even though he's rich enough. Okay, so subordinating conjunctions are the things that make independent clause different from dependent clause. In independent clause, there is no subordinating conjunction, but in dependent clause, there is. All right? Now look, sentence and clause are actually the same. That both of them have SV structure. The difference is independent clause is not preceded by subordinating conjunction, but dependent clause is. Now let us examine further concerning the patterns of both of the clauses. Independent clause has a pattern of finite that is characterized by the use of person, tense, and number. He enjoys the music. He enjoys the music is finite. Why? Because the subject is third person singular, he. And then this is why we use enjoys instead of enjoy. And of course, it can be extended to he enjoyed the music. He will enjoy the music. Yes? So you can see here that the tense enjoys because of the subject as third person singular. Yes? It is a present tense and can be changed into past tense, past participle, future, present perfect, and so on. This is why we call this finite clause. And number. There is a student in the library. There are 5 students in the library. Is and are indicate that these clauses are finite clauses. And then the patterns of dependent clause may be both finite clause and non-finite clause. By changing the finite clause into non-finite clause using verb with ing ending and past participle as well as to infinitive. I went to university after I ate lunch. After I ate lunch can be changed into after eating lunch. I went to university after eating lunch. In after eating lunch, you cannot see the tense there. This is why we call this non-finite clause. And another one, past participle. The girl called Mary is my friend. Called Mary is the abbreviation of a clause who is called Mary. So, the girl called Mary is my friend is actually the same as the girl who is called Mary is my friend, because who is called Mary is a clause. And another one, to infinitive. The first professor to reveal the evidence is my lecturer. To reveal is from the structure of clause. The professor who revealed the evidence the first time is my lecturer. There is no finite clause, but this is non-finite clause. This is another difference between the two clauses. Now let's go further. A clause can be superordinate clause or minor clause. Superordinate clause and minor clause are found out in dependent clause. Say for example, I will help you if it is possible. If it is possible can be conveyed by if possible. I will help you if it is possible is the same as I will help you if possible. If it is possible is called superordinate clause, and if possible is called minor clause. The characteristic of minor clause is the absence or the lack of formula, subject and verb, or SV, if possible. Dependent clause. Now, this is called moodless clause. Minor clause is moodless because it does not have S and V. This minor clause can be understood in the expression of WH questions. How about a glass of beer? What if it rains when you go out? Why not sell the old car and buy a new car? These are clauses that are minor clauses that are moodless. And this kind of minor clause can also be expressed in comment. Say, move. There is no subject and verb. And move, everybody. Move, everybody. There is subject and verb. But once again, in comment, moodless structure can be found out whenever you just say move. The moodless construction can also be heard in proverbs of English, such as like father, like son, out of sight, out of mind, easy come, easy go. And this is once again the characteristics of moodless construction or the lack of SV. Just before I put an end to my lecture, I want to sum up what I have explained to you so far. The analysis area of syntax are phrases, clauses, and sentences. There are two types of clauses: independent clause and dependent clause. Independent clause and dependent clause have construction as V. Independent clause has a structure or pattern of finite clause, whereas dependent clause has a structure of nonfinite clause. There are two types of clauses: superordinate clause that has SV and minor clause that does not have S and V, or we call moodless clause. I think this is all for today, and we'll meet again next time in our e-learning class. See you later. Bye.